Coming up, activist, actor, environmentalist, and all-around good guy Ed Begley Jr. joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Fantastic. Hi, I'm Illeana Douglas, and you are listening to the Illeana Douglas podcast. I'm here with my co-host. Fantastic live job there, Tamara Bird.
Thank you.
Women are, it's the day of the girl today anyway.
It is. I love it.
We did it. Women make it happen.
Me too.
I've got some exciting news to share in the world of movies. There will not be a sequel to the extremely successful film Bad Moms. The studio has decided to make a movie based on that success called Bad Dads.
But not a sequel.
No, so even though it just proves this thing that I'm always saying, even though women, and once again, they call it a surprise hit. Anytime women are in a movie that's successful, they call it a surprise. But Bad Moms, starring Kristen Bell, who's a fantastic activist.
Love her.
Huge success, and it does not get a sequel, but the studio is going to now make a movie, sort of a spin-off called Bad Dads. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's probably pretty clear to anybody who knows me knows that I'm, strong about women's rights and, women being honored. And, well, there's that whole other thing about, politics, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit.
Oh, yes.
But, yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this privately before, too. Why are they not making a sequel? No. Let's just put dudes in it because dudes are going to be excellent, right?
Well, it's this long history of, women sort of start something and they go, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Now we're going to stomp on your idea and we're going to put our idea. We're going to make it sort of Bad Dads. Even though Bad Dads, like, we've seen that movie. Wasn't that a movie with...
It's called Grown Ups.
Yeah. We with Adam Sandler and Eddie Murphy.
There are all kinds of those movies.
I know. So this is nothing new. The other thing that made me laugh was that the new movie Inferno is out, starring Tom Hanks.
Yes.
This has been a really successful sequel.
Right, so it's from the Dan Brown book. So the first one was
the Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code, and then Angels and Demons.
Yes,
right.
Currently, the one is this one's called Inferno. Tom Hanks gets to be in every sequel.
Sure.
And he's currently age 60. His co-star is 32. So even though he's been able to age, his co-star has been replaced, showing that, of course, women are completely replaceable. And they've all stayed sort of around
the same
30.
age.
Yeah, even though he's aged. And again, movies are a reflection of our society, supposedly. But this isn't really a reflection of our society.
Because women actually do age?
Yeah, I think that, So, but again, it shows, obviously some of a bit of a double standard here. Nothing against, Tom Hanks.
Right.
But he is in the Academy, and it's something interesting. We'll talk to Ed about this too, Ed Begley, coming up. He's in the Academy. And so when you're in a movie, I wonder, again, is that something, since we're speaking about this in the Academy, gender equality, maybe this would have been an opportunity to say, hey, I can have an age-appropriate co-star.
Absolutely.
Do you remember when Monica Bellucci was in the James Bond movie? She was 50. Yeah, it was great.
But that was, when was that?
It wasn't too long ago. It was
okay.
sort of making a statement, Of course, she was only there about 10 minutes, and she was in a wheelchair. But, but still, I think they were making effort. The other thing I have to say, just because it's got to be a word of the day, I was, read today on the interwebs, of course, Donald Trump is unshackled. He has this quote. He's quoted that he's unshackled. Sounds like something my Aunt Josie used to say, when she'd take her bra. Yeah, take her bra off at the end of the day, and those babies would drop to the ground. He's unshackled. What was he before?
Exactly.
I don't know. What are we in for?
Good
Well,
gracious.
maybe it just means he's going commando. That's what he means. He's unshackled, and
he's
their babies are
unshackled.
dropping to the floor. That's like
Somebody's going to be grabbing something on him then.
Well, I just
possibly.
thought when he said he was unshackled, I thought somewhere like deep in the ground, the devil just threw up his hands and said, "That's it. I'm obsolete. I'm obsolete. There's no need. There's no need for me anymore. I'm. Oh my goodness.
Somebody
Anyway.
needs to find the shackles. That's all I'm thinking.
It's going to be interesting cinematically what we do with all of this, the current discourse. A lot of it, aside from politics, the male-female-ness of the conversations. And we just had the debate, and everybody was talking about the visual
Yes.
effect of Donald Trump looming over.
Lurking was the word that I've seen so much used about that. He was definitely like,
Also, it has to be noted the public, the crucible-like public shaming of bringing these women in and they'd sit in the front row, and that is supposed to shame Hillary Clinton,
Right.
and whether that is appropriate to do to women. To even the women that are victims, it made me uncomfortable, and I felt that somehow that should have been stopped. I don't know. I don't think it was a forum for us to be a part of that. It felt very ugly.
yeah.
Well, the debate organizers wouldn't allow them to sit with the family, so that was their one opportunity
Well,
to try to move.
I know what
that
was supposed to
arena.
happen. Were they supposed to
Well, yeah, they
get in
originally Trump
Jello
want-
and fight each other?
Well,
I
they
don't.
just wanted them to have to go and shake, have Clinton, both of them, have to go and shake their hands.
But yes, but again, isn't that's a shaming of
I agree.
her?
I agree.
And again, I don't think that we would allow that in the legal system. A lot of it just felt like kind of a public shaming of her, a reminder. Here she is, the first female. Who's going to be, who's running for president. And I thought it was a stunt more to undermine her and to humiliate her. And I'm wondering, again, did you ever feel, I've certainly been called out in meetings with film executives, like, stop talking so much, don't, you sound like you're
Wait,
showing
stop
off.
talking so much. I have something to say.
But, there's a sense of, I thought it was a sense to undermine her, and I did think she seemed very rattled. And
Yeah.
I just don't think that was a fair forum.
Well, I think that no matter how strong an upbringing a woman has, the gender roles are really laid in place here. And, as much as Hillary Clinton is someone who has kind of come out of the traditional gender roles into something that's clearly, as you say, she's the one candidate who has been female, the major party candidate who's run for president. But still, of course, she's going to be rattled because the truth of the matter is she is still female. And for me, with watching all of these, both, politically and culturally, and all the, conversation that's going on and how bad things are getting, I'm generally a sunshiny person. And my hope is that we've really hit the bottom right now, and that this is an opportunity for things to turn.
You are
He's
sunshine.
I am sunshiny.
He's unshackled.
He is unshackled.
But I thought it was really interesting about how is that going to reflect in cinematically. I mean, how
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
and
you
you're
guys should discuss it with Ed.
Yes,
and
I-
you're involved
yes.
in women in film, right?
Yes,
so yeah,
just
that's something that
my show, which is on Turner Classic Movies, called Trailblazing Women in Film, and we're showcasing actresses. And again, we're talking about a time when women were starring in films, also being role models. Jane Fonda and Bette Midler and Jane Alexander, and currently women are being so marginalized. So it's a great opportunity, our show, to showcase over 40 actresses who have used their fame as a platform for the greater good. It's a little bit of a different take. I think people think, oh, they're just going to talk about these Bette Davis and Marlene
Right.
Dietrich. But again, I think people are going to be shocked at the amount of historical things that they've done, for the fabric of society that we've all benefited by. And I'm really proud of it. It's a 3-year initiative with Turner Classic Movies, and I love working with them. We're telling the story with entertainment. So
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So your book, I Blame Dennis Hopper, which
Yes.
is the name of the podcast and the name of the book, is all about film and your life in and outside of movie making. So I thought I wanted to ask you a couple
Sure.
of questions about your personal foundation with film. So your grandfather was Melvin Douglas, who is an Academy Award winner. Two-time Academy Award winner. So do you remember what is your first movie memory?
Yes, my first movie memory was so profound. I actually wrote about it in the book. It was a summer in Vermont, and it was around 1970, I think, and everybody was going to go to the drive-in. I didn't even know what the drive-in was, but it sounded like something really exciting. And I started crying because I wasn't going to be able to go to the drive-in. And my grandfather said, you're going to come with me and we're going to go to the drive-in. So I got in the car with him and went and saw my very first movie, which was Romeo and Juliet. And I was quite young.
Franco Zeffirelli's?
Yes, Franco Zeffirelli's. So
I saw that in school.
again, I was quite young, so I don't really remember, the film as much as I remember the images, nudity, the music, the sound, the beautiful sound, the images against the starry sky of Vermont, and of course, being next to my grandfather. And
How old were you? I'm
I
sorry.
think I was about 4.
4, wow.
So 4 or 5, in that general area, because I think it was around summer of 1970. So it melded for me, excuse me, like a kind of romantic, feeling of what movies are. And I think, of course, being with my grandfather in a 1959 Mercedes, didn't hurt either.
That's a lovely way to see that movie. I remember I saw that movie in school, actually in junior high or high school. And I do remember very distinctly writing sort of an essay afterwards going, because it like stuck with me.
Yes.
It absolutely stuck with me. And it was a similar thing. I was obviously older than you because I was in high school when I saw it. But I remember it really sticking with me, the again, like the images and the sort, because it was a really artful piece. And so, yeah, it affected you.
I think
profoundly
in
as well.
ways that are subliminal, Olivia Hussey, just that her face and the long dark hair and the simplicity of her look, and just things that you don't realize as a grown up that you're trying to emulate. That just the overwroughtness of the music, which I love. I'm always a sucker for a huge, big soundtrack, and of course it's the doomed love at the end, doomed romance. And I write about in my book how drive-ins were such a part of my childhood. My parents, who were hippie parents, would, load us up in the back of a pickup, and we'd go see movies, and we'd be there for hours. And again, you'd wake up, see a piece of a movie, fall asleep, wake up. So it was like one long Robert Altman movie. And I just know that whenever I'd wake up, it was because my brothers were screaming, because of course more nudity on the screen.
Woo-hoo!
We saw a lot of nudity, and then
Awesome.
going into high school, our drive-in became, a Quentin Tarantino kind of grindhouse. Movies. Oh my God! I saw every. I spit on your grave. I spit on your mother's grave. I saw every spit on your grave. But the last movie I saw at the drive-in was Motel Hell.
Oh.
It was. Oh my God! It's terrible.
I bet I saw that in a drive-in too. Which you don't. You watched the movies at the drive-in.
Oh
right?
no, I was the one. Yes, I was the one that. Well, all the other girls were like loading up on their cherry lip gloss.
Bonnie Bell lip gloss.
Yeah, I was. I would be talking to guys like, so have you seen Serpico? Michael Saracen, who's in Reincarnation of Peter Proud. Yes. Oh, that movie scared me.
It scared the crap out of me, too.
Yeah, I didn't want to go swimming in a lake. But no, nobody was interested. Nobody was interested in the film at all. I remember trying to see Serpico in the rain. It was funny, I pulled out Serpico from my brain because I remember being with my brother at the drive-in. Hey, once you paid your 99 cents, you weren't going to be kicked out. But I remember, again, the image of not only seeing Serpico, but just like, and trying to watch the film anyway, Oh, it's great memories.
I love it. Okay, I just want to ask you one more question before
Yes,
we
sure.
bring in Ed Begley.
Yes,
so
we gotta bring
I
Ed
want to
in.
know about the first time your grandfather brought you to set.
Yes, this was again just an indelible experience. You know, as I got older and really just kept telling my grandfather I wanted to be in show business, be in the movies. He invited me to the set of Being There, and it just was an incredible experience. I understood this concept suddenly going from my room where I had, you know, posters of Peter Sellers, because I love comedians. That was I gravitated towards first in film. But, you know, meeting Peter Sellers on the set of Being There and just being able to talk to him and watching this magical environment of watching the scene and what movies were like and how many people it took to make movies. And it was, you know, Hal Ashby, the director, created this temple of art. And again, I was very young. You know, my brain was like wet cement. And, you know, you don't forget a memory like that. So every time I step on a film set, I think I have a sort of a sense memory of how privileged it felt to be in that set, Asheville, North Carolina. First of all, just driving up to the set. They were filming in a mansion, and you know, my grandfather, you know, drove there in his town car, and it felt very glamorous.
Sure.
You know, it was like, who wouldn't want to be in show business and movies? And then in between takes, you know, they sat in directors' chairs and they told stories about the movies. I said, this is where I want to be, you know.
Yeah, heaven for you.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing now, just sitting around telling stories.
So Ed's father is also an Academy Award-winning actor.
Yes, Ed Begley, who also, which I'm going to ask him.
So we're going to bring him in now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just, Ed Begley is a 6-time Emmy-nominated actor. He's appeared in so many movies, of course, all the Chris Guest movies. Currently Blunt Talk, Better Call Saul, Lady Dynamite, Ghostbusters, my web series, Easy to Assemble. And the most important thing about Ed is, I always say, I say when in doubt, do what Ed Begley Jr. does. And
What is that?
Mary Rochelle? Oh boy, I don't know if that's good advice.
I can't do that. But no, whenever I'm in a set, because we've worked together numerous times.
Yes, we have.
I remember seeing you in a film. I've studied you, and we were on a movie, and they brought you to your trailer. And I remember the first thing they do on a trailer is, you know, they want it ice cold for you. I don't know why for an actor.
Yeah.
But
or in the winter, they get it boiling hot. They either, you know, air conditioning or heat. They get it way beyond the temperature you would require.
Yes, but so we were chatting, and Ed came in, and just literally the first thing he did was take the air conditioning to a more environmentally friendly level. And so it's these little things that, as an actor, I think of the great Ed Begley. And if there's ever an earthquake, I will find my way to your house.
Right,
Come to
absolutely.
my place. We'll be ready.
Yes.
We're prepared.
Ed, there's so much to talk to you about.
Thanks for being here, Ed.
I know.
My pleasure.
I'm so
So
excited.
much.
Thank
So
you so much.
excited.
Am I pronouncing it right, Tamara or Tamara?
Tamara,
Tamara,
like
I
a
had it right.
camera.
Camera, Tamara.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Boy, those chips are good. Those potato chips. How do you make those?
I made snacks for everybody.
Tamara
today.
makes
Boy.
vegan snacks.
Everything was so good. That pate, that
Oh,
vegan
the
pate.
pate's
Wow.
amazing. Thank you. Yes, I'll put the recipes up on the site.
Great.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
Sure, I'm coming down.
So Ed, the first thing I have to ask you, because I always, you know, I wrote in my book about the experience of movies that they had in my childhood. Do you remember the first movie that you saw?
I did. I thought about it because you asked me this last
Yes.
night, and so I thought about it. I do remember. I'm pretty sure it was the claymation version of Hansel and Gretel. I believe there's a claymation Hansel and Gretel that I saw when I was, 4 or something
Yeah.
like it. It was terrifying. I was so freaking scared. I just couldn't breathe for a week. I thought it was real. I didn't know how they were moving because it looked different than a cartoon. There was
Yes.
something different about it. and it just creeped me out. I was frightened beyond description.
Interesting. And so do you think, as my experience seeing Romeo and Juliet with my grandfather, who I adored, at a drive-in.
Who I adored, too.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't go to the drive-in with him, but I sure adored him.
But do you think it had, because I feel like, our brains are wet cement and we're putting these images in them. Do you think that claymation, that scary, like so were they going to come get you? What was the fear?
Yeah, the witch and the oven and the kids put in the oven and letting her feel the bone to
The
think
fingers.
they
Oh, my
weren't
God.
fattened up, all that stuff.
Yes.
It freaked me out. But there was a movie theater like right across from our house in Merrick, Long Island. I grew up in Merrick. I was born here. We came out here pretty much every summer because my dad would do a TV show and a movie out here, and then he'd do stage the rest of the year in New York.
Incredible.
So he parked us out in Long Island, and it was a great neighborhood. And right across the street, there was the Gables Theater in Merrick, Long Island, New York. And it was great because, then I remembered all the many movies that I saw there that I loved and wasn't frightened. I was, mesmerized by Journey to the Center of the Earth. I saw that movie as a kid.
Interesting.
And we all got canteens and supplies and flashlights. We started to dig in the backyard. We were going to dig to the center of the earth. We literally thought at age 10 we could do that.
Sure.
It's-
Why not?
Why not? What's to stop us?
Absolutely.
James Mason made it look pretty easy. Let's dig. Fine.
Shovels.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, do you think, do you think that those experiences, did you know, that when did you realize, people ask me, when did I realize my grandfather was an actor? And it took me I knew he was somebody important, but it wasn't until I was probably 7 or 8 that I realized he was in the movies, which seemed unbelievable to me. That
Right.
someone in my own family was in the movies. Did you have that same experience?
I don't know when I really got it, because it's the only father I knew, the only childhood I knew. In my case, it was my father, and so I just thought it was all very normal for a long time. Then I remembered he had these little pictures that were this big he'd hand out to people, little giveaway, like autography kind of pictures that were cheap to make and easy to hand out. And so I took some of those to school. I started giving them away to the kids, and I realized some of them said, "What do I want this for?" They threw it back at me or something. But the other kids wanted it because they recognized them from movies and TV shows, and so I had this currency. There was some value to my dad being an actor.
Yes.
And so I got it at a fairly early age, and I started to go backstage with him at different plays. He did many great plays that I did not see. I did not see Inherit the Wind. He won a Tony for that with Paul
Yes.
Muni. They both won Tonys for that. But then I saw Advised Consent, and I saw Look Homeward Angel, and indeed went with him on the road to Baltimore and Washington and New Haven and Boston to go to these cities and to be backstage with different people, from those Richard Kiley and
Incredible.
These wonderful actors, Henry Jones, great actors, and to meet these people, it was just extraordinary. And I realized at some point it's what I wanted to do. I realized very early it's what I wanted to do. I think if my dad was a plumber, I'd be fitting pipe now.
Oh.
I just wanted to do what he did. I really did.
He was such an indelible, kind of a character actor. You need him in a movie. He anchored so many movies when you think
Right,
of
like Edward Arnold or Sidney Greenstreet or those kind of, those wonderful actors, and
Yeah.
Carl Malden and my dad and E.G. Marshall, all those guys. You pick any guy from 12 Angry Men, those kind of wonderful actors, they would really anchor the movie.
Exactly.
Those character actors were so important.
Did he have any kind of, you said you're so privileged to get to watch him in theater. I never got to watch my grandfather do theater, but did he have any kind of what were his rituals, or what was his training for getting ready?
He just kind of, clear his throat and go, blah, 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 or something like that. It was very simple. He didn't have a big meditative thing. I knew enough to leave him alone just before he went on. He'd have me leave the dressing room and, go back, go sit in the audience and watch the play again, or I'd go sit in the lobby and we would go, when they were done, when the play was over, I'd be allowed to go pick up all the programs and clean them up and put them somewhere. It was such an honor to be doing something for no pay, but it was just great to have some role.
But before he got into acting, didn't he have he grew up in Connecticut and sort
Hartford.
of was a bit of a circus roustabout, or how
He was in carnivals and circuses. He ran away from home when he was fairly young. I think he was 12. He dropped out of school when he was 12, didn't have a formal education at all, but became kind of a self-educated, pretty smart guy. He was very smart, very savvy, and very funny. And he was in the Navy. He was a short order cook. He had won a Charlie Chaplin contest at a fairly young age, 12 or 13 or something like that. And he decided, this is for me. He had a taste of success or something, and so he just wanted to be in showbiz. He had a vaudeville act with my much older brother. I have a brother, a child actually he raised as his son. It was not his son, it was his sister's son, but it was a big scandal because she was unmarried and what have you. So my dad said, I'll raise him as my son, and you don't have to go to a nunnery or something.
Now, didn't you, did you have a Catholic background?
Catholic. My dad was a devout Catholic, and I was raised that way. I was an altar boy, and I bought the whole program till I was about 16, and then there was suddenly some cracks in the thinking and the theology. I started to go, no, wait a minute, how does this work again? You don't make it to confession, and you've done something, but you're Hitler, and you decide to go to confession, and it's all okay? You don't go to hell?
Yes.
I didn't quite get it suddenly.
I had the same sort of experience around 13, confirmation. It also sort of starts to fall apart.
Yeah, the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and rolling the stone away from the thing, and he rose again from the dead. And
yeah, it all seems sort of highly unlikely. However, just we're talking about you, but in my own journey in talking about films, when I did the movie Alive, part of the reason I did the film was to maybe have a reawakening. Religious reawakening, and it helped quite a bit being around the real survivors from the Andes disaster.
Oh, that's right. That was great. That was a wonderful movie. I love that movie. Really good.
But I miss the time in movies where at least, religion these days is such a hot potato you can't even bring it up in a film. Whereas some of these, these stories, Song of Bernadette, for instance, they're interesting fables that at least open the door that you can, or your dad, Irish, the sort of Irish Catholic, gift of the gab, kind of immigrant,
touch of the Blarney, for
exactly. Sure. And so I feel like again in films we're getting a little bit maybe away from. So that's one of the reasons I like some of these old films, to watch that.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. I loved all those films. I really connected as an Irish person, as a Catholic, because again, not only did I buy the whole deal, I bought it big time. I loved my confirmation. I, prayed every night. I was an altar boy. I really, just prayed every night. Please let me be a good boy. It was like really kind of touching in a way now that I look back at it.
Aww.
But it was, it just started to fall apart with the population explosion, and they were, no, you can't have any birth control, and make sure you put your money, even though you're poor, put your money in the poor box. And it's like they had all the gold and the jewels in the Vatican and elsewhere. I went, well, this doesn't seem right.
Right. Well, plus as you get into the 60s. Now, how did your how did your dad transition into the 60s? He won an Academy Award in 1962.
Right.
But then, as with the movie Easy Rider, I mean, that's where Hollywood starts this crazy divide. But then that's where you kind of start working in that.
He
same
died
time.
a few years into that. He was in his movie that was kind of part of some of that wildness. Was a movie called Wild in the Streets that he did with
great film.
Yeah, crazy movie. He plays a senator that winds up on LSD because they put LSD in the water supply in the nation's capital. And who else is in that? Chris somebody is a star of it. I can't remember. And I think, Richard Pryor's in it, that's for sure.
Right.
Richard Pryor's definitely in it.
My question was, is this a comedy? And you've just answered it with Richard Pryor.
It was not a comedy.
It was not?
No, it was
No.
serious. It was serious.
He was not playing a comedic role. It was quite serious. The basic buy of the movie is don't trust anybody over 30, and all these kids, teenagers mostly, I don't think anybody even in their 20s, they kind of take over. They take over the country
Right.
by putting acid in the water supply in the nation's capital. I think that was their big success.
Yeah, and that's what then some of these movies were pretty successful, but then you have this veering towards the kind of I Love You, Alice B. Toklas, the
Right.
kind of trying to Hollywood trying to be hip, and then. But I think Wild in the Streets is a fantastic film.
Yeah, and I wanted to be in all those kinds of movies, and didn't have a lot of luck at first at all. I was in a lot of Disney movies. I got those kind of wholesome Disney movie roles with Kurt Russell. I did several movies with him, Super Dad, and Now You See Him, Now You Don't, and The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, Charlie and the Angel. I did all those movies at Disney and loved it. It was great fun to work at Disney.
Yeah.
It was just such
Did you
a
meet Walt Disney?
I never met Walt, no. But just to hang out in that studio, and it was just like a whole family kind of a thing. Kurt Russell was a great ball player. He'd be out there, you know, between the sound stages throwing a ball, and, you know, I guess his dad or somebody would be there working with him, and he would, or just playing with different crew members, you know, it was like, that's what you did at lunchtime. People would toss the ball around. It was a real family kind of a thing, and then it became, you know, more corporatized and what have you. Not that it wasn't, Walt had built a large corporation before that, but it just morphed into something else. It was a real Roy Disney kind of family operation when I worked there.
And did they give you any acting lessons or dancing lessons, speech lessons? What was your
I'm glad
technique?
you brought that up, because that's the most important thing about how all this happened. I wanted to be an actor from the earliest age, and I started going on auditions. Somehow I browbeat my dad or somebody into getting me an agent. I don't think I had an agent, but an agent getting me one interview or something. I went up to understudy the role, the Barry Gordon role, in 1,000 Clowns. I, of course, didn't get it. I didn't get anything. I got no work because I had no idea what I was doing. I literally thought, I'm charming, I'm real funny, I can tell some jokes. Give me a series, Dad. Get me a Wagon Train. Get me a Gunsmoke. I literally thought it was that easy. Why wouldn't he just pick up the phone and get me a part? Like he could do that, first of all. I had no idea that he couldn't do that, that he didn't have the power to do that. I was clueless. And also, I had no training. So finally, he or somebody said, you should go to this guy, Paul Kent, down on Melrose Avenue. They've got some classes there, and you'll go and you'll take some acting lessons. And I did that, got a job right away.
Wow. And
Nice.
who were some of the people in the class? Anyone famous?
Nobody that I remember there. Then later I was in many other classes with wonderful people. I finally connected with the Strasberg Institute, and that was okay. Lee was fine. He taught a big class, but then they had breakout classes with Peggy Fury.
Right.
Peggy Fury was great, and she opened up the Loft Studio on La Brea, and many people went over there. Bruno Kirby, Angelica Houston, me, Annette O'Toole, Sean Penn. All these wonderful people went to Peggy Fury, and she was wonderful. She was really great. I learned a lot from her and started to improve what little skills I had. I had no skills whatsoever. I was just kind of a wisecracking guy, didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was very good within about a year or two. I started in '67. By '69 maybe or '70, I was very relaxed on camera. That part I had down kind of early. I wasn't like, well, the camera's coming around, here it comes in the thing, and the line is coming up.
But that's some of it, isn't it? The confidence level that you had, you know, that is a lot of the foundation.
That was a good thing, but I still had no idea about character and what have you, and it wasn't until the 90s. I began to wake up to certain things. There was a guy called Roy London. He was an acting teacher. He was very good.
him.
I studied with him only briefly, and he said something one day that I thought was just the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. We're talking about this. I was doing this show called Winnetka Road, and I wanted to get a little extra something out of it, so I went to him, and he helped me, and he was very helpful. I said, you know what's the most interesting thing to watch, Ed? I said, yeah, what's that, Roy? He said, how a character deals with pain. I went, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Oh, yeah, great, Roy. Yeah, how a character, yeah, that's what I want to watch. Oh, I'm in pain. It hurts. Life hurts so much. I'm in pain. And I was driving home and thinking about how stupid that was, so I realized that wasn't what he said at all. He said how a character deals with pain. How you keep the lid on that pot.
Right.
Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep. What is her choice? What happened to her and what happened? And you see what happened. She had to choose which kid. And the Nazis. My God, and you watch it and you get emotional, and it's just very moving. And that's what it's about, finding those emotions and how a character deals with pain, comedy or drama. It applies for either.
Well, it's interesting. See, now, just as you were telling that, the emotion sort of wells up in you.
Yes.
But for some people, that's difficult. You know, do you think you've always had that ability to access your emotions?
I have ability today. I got lucky and it happened just now. I welled up right now talking about it. I just connected to something, but I usually don't. I'm still in a sound stage. You're trying to get emotional, but it's not working. You're still in a sound stage. There's a camera there and there's lights and I'm not self-conscious about it in that way. I'm not nervous about it, but I can't get into the moment the way you sometimes do. But it's so important. The really fine actors, the Meryl Streeps, the Daniel Day-Lewis, the Joaquin Phoenix, the Sean Penns, they have that ability to connect so wonderfully to those emotions. They do their work, though. They do the work.
And Illeana, you talk about that in the book. I think that music is a lot of your inspiration,
well, for
right?
me, music always helped.
Me too.
To ground myself. My acting teacher was Sanford Meisner.
Wonderful.
And I was very privileged to have him as a teacher. And my other teacher was named Richard Pinter, and then Phil Gushy. Those were my three teachers from the neighborhood playhouse. But he used to say it's not having the emotion, it's accessing it, meaning it's there,
Right.
and you get tense, and then you're trying to like heave out this emotion, as opposed to it's always there. You just have to find these avenues to access it. And so for me, music, work, sometimes I've been desperate and I've asked the director to maybe say something to me. Because as when sometimes you're looking at the call sheet and you go, oh God, I got that scene.
That scene.
It's like a mountain sometimes, because you don't want to be a bad actor. It happened to me once. Did it ever happen to you? You're like, this is bad and we're filming it.
Yeah, that's happened many times. But that thing that Roy said is I keep coming back to that, because how a character deals with pain is the same in a dramatic sense or comedy. Laurel and Hardy are carrying a piano down a flight of stairs and they drop it, and then it falls on that, they kind of tumble, and the piano, not only do they drop it, but then the piano falls on top of them.
Yes.
That's how they're dealing with pain, and you're laughing your ass off because there's nothing really at stake. There's no blood and they're not bleeding to death.
Yeah.
But it's universal comedy or drama, and I started to use that in my work, and it just got much better.
Interesting.
And it's always interesting to watch a scene unfold between behind the reeds, to kind of see how that person is keeping the lid on the pot. That's really interesting. They're saying one thing, but you can tell something else is going inside. That wonderful actress, what's her name from, she won an Academy Award, African-American actress for with the very heavy girl, Precious or something.
Gabourey Sidibe.
Yeah, she's in it, but the one who plays her mother. Remember that scene that she has when she's talking, what about me?
Yes.
What about me? She's the one that allowed her to be abused.
Yes.
I'm going to get emotional again thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the woman starts talking when they confront her, what about me? I don't have my share. And who's going to look out for me?
Yes.
And it's, oh my God, it's so powerful.
She was wonderful, and she's not, and we can't even think of her name now, it's terrible. And
boy, was she good.
She was.
There's some great work out there. The work that some of these people are doing is just unbelievable. Did you watch The Night Of?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh my God, you got to see The Night Of. It's so good.
And who's in this film?
It's an HBO series.
Okay.
It's like an 8-episode or 10.
Oh, is this the one with Jeannie Berlin?
Yes, Jeannie is wonderful in it.
I've been saving up then. I'm going to watch.
Save up and watch it, because this is one of the gifts now that America will know what you and I know, that Jeannie Berlin is so wonderful and so talented. She will have, she's just fantastic. Glenn Headley is great in it. This kid who plays the lead, I think his heritage is Pakistani, I believe, but he is wonderful in it. And who else is in it? Oh God, it's just filled with wonderful actors, and the storytelling is just great.
Oh, I'm excited to see that. Well, yes, Jeannie Berlin is starred in, The Heartbreak Kid, and
one of the best comedies ever.
Another amazing performance, Margaret, with the Kenny Lonergan film from a few years back. But I'd love to have actually Jeannie on the show. But I visited her in New York, and when she was preparing, and her bedroom was literally covered with notes and pads, and she put so much work into that performance. So
it paid off. She is just wonderful in it. You buy 100% that you're watching a candid camera film of a DA, a prosecutor in Manhattan. You buy it for everybody. It's just, Steve Zalian, it's just fantastic.
Do you find again, like we were talking about again, the time constraints of you go in and you want to do something that's nuanced, but there's just not enough time to do things. I mean, sometimes we're shooting movies. What the Christopher Guest movies, for instance? How long is a shooting schedule on those?
Very short. It's I think 21 days or something like it. It's not a long process, but he has Jane Lynch and Bob Balaban and Fred Willard and these wonderful actors and actresses and Parker Posey. My God, just these wonderful people. So you show up and you there's no script. It's just a treatment, as you know.
Right.
So when you have your treatment, what your character basically is, and then he starts rolling and you start saying what you think you should say.
Right.
And Chris, next take, do that first part, do that last, and the middle part, start with that, and bring it all, tighten up that other thing, and we'll do it again. And he's got a keen eye and a keen ear, of course. He's Chris Guest, and then it turns out really nice usually.
Now, is that scary doing that, or is that just freeing?
No, it's so much easier than having to, because certainly when you have good lines, which I've had a lot of lately, working on Better Call Saul and other shows like that, you have really great lines. You don't want to change one of them. You want it verbatim.
Right.
And they usually do too, and they should have it verbatim because the lines are really good. And you kind of, what is it? I want to get that just right. Is it can or won't? Can or won't? Here it comes. It can. Can't. No, it's won't. And, you kind of, sometimes, of course, neither of us do that often. You got to just be relaxed and go, I'm going to jump off the high dive, and whatever I say can or won't is going to be, and if you get it wrong, you do it right the next take. You can't be thinking about can or won't. You got to just do what you do. Do you
ever get, well, I often find this, not too much anymore, but starting out, I would just be very intimidated, if I was working with a Robert De Niro or a Christopher Walken. I just like the thinking, she's terrible, or you know what I mean? Like, you have to get out of your head and just...
You have to just jump off the high dive. Even if all of that is true, that they do think you're terrible, or you are terrible, it doesn't serve you to think about that now. You just got to jump off the high dive and expect there to be water when you're hit.
Yes.
Just got to, doesn't look like there's any water there. I'm jumping anyway. Here I go. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever the lines are, whatever I think they are, as I'm in the moment of this character. My only thing is to think of, what is she thinking over there, and why is there a cityscape behind her, and I'm just wondering what's going on. I stay in that moment, and then hopefully I'll say those lines, which I've worked on 600 times, and I say them and just keep the intent clear, and if you do that, it usually works out pretty good.
Have you had, I've had the experience, again, we're working on a movie and with the star of the movie, and I said to her, when we do the scene, I thought maybe it's a funeral, I'll be comforting you, maybe I could touch your hand or something, would that be okay? No.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then, so if you had that, I've had the experience where you do have to adapt. It's not always.
Yeah. You got to work within the confines of the hierarchy too. You got to, I bring in what I bring in, and people like Chris Guest usually accept, what notion I have of the character. I play a Swedish guy in A Mighty Wind, but suddenly he's spouting Yiddish. Why in God's name is he talking Yiddish? There's no sense to it, but he allowed me to do it. And,
that's right.
Yeah, so you do that stuff, and sometimes you get shot down. So as quickly as a director, Chris, or anybody says, no, I don't want you to do that, there can't be two captains on the ship. There's got to be one only, the director. If the writer's there and giving input, you want to service a writer and what have you, and service the material. But I firmly believe in, doing what the director wants. I'll kind of have a discussion about it. If they're firm and what have you, no, I don't want to do it that way. Or another actor, I don't want you touching me. Okay, I'll find something else.
Yes. And
speaking of the Swedes, can we talk a little bit about Easy to Assemble?
Absolutely.
My people, the Swedes.
Sure. We originally met. Do you remember how we met?
Before the Jeff Goldblum Pittsburgh thing, we met. That's right. Where did we meet before that? Hold on a second.
We're testing your memory.
Quiz.
No,
Put
I'm
on the
too
Jeopardy
old.
clock.
I can't remember anything.
It was a movie premiere. I want to say one of the big ones, like Kill Bill or...
See, you remember all of these things. In my experience of you, you have you have a photographic memory about these things.
Wait, was it the Wes Anderson film?
Which one?
The one with Jason Schwartzman and...
They all have Jason Schwartzman.
Oh, the one where they're on the train.
Darjeeling Limited.
Darjeeling Limited.
No, I didn't see that at a premiere, but we met somewhere like that.
We
it
met at
wasn't
one of
that
the
one.
big
It
movie
probably was
premieres.
a Wes Anderson movie. I'm a big Wes Anderson fan. God, is he good.
Yes.
And what a movie. That's one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies, and that's saying a lot because they're all brilliant.
I think so too, and that one is the one that doesn't get a lot of heat, but I think that one's
Why?
so touching.
I'm writing
And
it
the
down.
look of it, the colors, and
Yeah.
the train, and Angelica, and everything about it, just, Jason
Yeah.
and Owen, and it's a brilliant movie.
Yeah, it had one of my, I love I'm a sucker for anything that's about family and relationships.
Yes.
And I guess that's why I found it to be really touching. But we met at a movie premiere. We never crossed paths, but we both did the Larry Sanders show.
Correct.
As did Jeff Goldblum. That's how I met Jeff Goldblum.
We had a friend in common in Jeff. That
Yes.
was part of it, too.
And then Jeff Goldblum was doing a kind of a movie, comic movie, Pittsburgh, which is based on his real life. He was going to be going back to Pittsburgh to do the musical Music Man. And he called me and said, "You were going to be in the movie." That's what I remember at the movie premiere. He said you were going to be in the movie. I was going to play your wife in the Music Man. So we were going to do the Music Man, and then we were also going to film this making of the Music Man.
Yeah, which
And-
was a great adventure in 2004. That's 12 years ago now, Illeana. Can you believe that?
No,
That's a dozen years?
Went by.
Boom.
It went by, and we're going to get to Easy to Assemble, but I have to talk briefly about Pittsburgh because Ed and I were sort of thrust together because we did all of our scenes. So when they were doing their scenes, we didn't have anything to do. So I would just take it as an excuse to be like, "Are you going to have lunch?"
We had a
And sort of-
ball. We had a great time in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
so we would hang out, and that's when Marlon Brando had passed away, and that's when I found out that Ed was very close with Marlon Brando, who I was obsessed with because I had met him literally one day, and he changed my life. So that was, and you met him, you had a close relationship with him also.
Yeah,
Also,
he was-
Illeana's stories in the book. Just wanted
Yes.
listeners to know that.
I only have one story. How did you get to know Marlon Brando?
It was this odd thing where Helena, Helena Kalinotes, she's an old friend of Jack Nicholson. She
Yes.
was in 5 Easy Pieces. She had the restaurant Helena. She was kind of, she was this wonderful Hollywood figure, show business figure that would arrange these parties and do these things and
Right,
was a
like a
contact.
salon.
Exactly. And right next door to Jack for many years lived Marlon Brando. Marlon was there first. I think Jack moved in after him. That's my memory of it. They both have lived there since the 60s. And so I always wondered all those many years I would go up there to see Jack. I always hoped and prayed I would catch a hand going to get a newspaper or something. Oh my God, I saw his hand. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll see him in the driveway and I'll wave and he'll say hello. And did you know my dad, Ed Begley? I'd kind of try to, but I never saw him once. Not one time did I ever see him. Then Helena one day, in the 70s, I think, started to say, Marlon wants to talk to you. Marlon wants to talk to me? Oh, yeah, okay, give him my number. That's great. And then, 5 years go by. Marlon really wants to talk to you. Okay, do you want to give me? No, he doesn't like his number given out. Oh, okay. So give him my number, and this just goes on forever.
Yeah.
Finally, in the 90s, I come home one day and press play on the machine.
Edward, it's Marlon. Give me a shout. I need to speak to you about something quite important. I know you've been up many of the same alleys I've been up.
I didn't know I'd been up the same alleys. I don't even know what that means. Is that a metaphor?
I don't know.
But call me. This whole phone system is completely nuts. So try to have some mercy if you.
And cut him off. I had like a 1 minute limit.
Oh my God! Ed.
I called Helena. Somebody said, "Look, he called. He left a message. I think he wants. No, he wants. Here's his number. Call him back."
Oh my gosh.
So I called him back, and I developed this relationship with him, where I'd go up there and hang out with him and just bullshit.
Yeah.
He just loved to talk about stuff.
Yes.
And let me explain what I mean by stuff. Drywall, plumbing,
No.
concrete, rebar, wind turbines, solar panels, here's a list of things he never wanted to talk about.
Right.
Acting, writing, directing, producing, puppetry, dance, balloon animals, anything that could remotely be considered sock puppets, anything that was remotely show business.
Right.
He didn't want to talk about that at all. But he loved to talk about stuff, how you make stuff, and how do you, tell me, because he knew I did some carpentry too, and he was always, talking about building something. I don't know that he built a lot of stuff. Maybe he did, and he just never showed it to me. But,
Yeah.
But he was always interested in
Wood carving, didn't he?
I think he did some wood carving. Yes,
Yeah.
he did. Mm-hmm. But he'd go up there to his place, and he had this swimming pool that was green, like, it was completely green, overgrown with algae. Oh, that's interesting. And you go in there, and you'd have lunch with him, what have you. And one day, I get a phone call from him. Again, we never, ever talk show business. And the message that I got one day was this.
Edward, it's bran flakes. Listen, Ed the Bagel, get up here. There's a project I've been working on. I want to collaborate with you on a project. I've got the financing. We have distribution in place. And it's something I want to do with you.
So I'm like, a project? He's got financing and he wants to do it with me? This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Distribute. Oh my God. I went up. So Marlon, tell me what we're talking about here. Do you have a script?
A script? No. Do you know how many volts an electric eel puts out?
No, I don't really know the exact number. I'm sure it's kind of high, a couple hundred volts, but very low current because otherwise it'd kill the eel.
See, this is why you're perfect for this. Yes, it's 200 volts at about half an amp. It's just for a second. Do you know, what's the name of the town down the coast?
The name of the town down the coast? That's not, what do you mean, like south of Santa Monica? There's a marina, there's, San Pedro, Long Beach, Hermosa Beach, Huntington Beach, Seal Beach. I started naming the town down the coast. And finally, La Jolla.
La Jolla, that's it, the Scripps Institute La Jolla. Do you know what a plecostomus is?
Yeah, I do know what a plecostomus is. A friend had an aquarium. It's a suckerfish. It eats the algae. You have plecostomus in your thing? Are they a tasty fish, or do you?
No, for God's sake, no. They taste terrible. Trust me. But the plecostomus is a feedstock for the electric eels.
What are you doing with electric eels?
We're going to put electric eels in every house in America.
What do you mean, like as a moat? Like a security device to keep people away?
No, we're going to power every home in America with electric eels.
So you're not going to, how are you going to harness the power? Harness being an appropriate term in this case. You're going to put like a little horse harness on each one, and you're going to have wires spun around with the eels swimming around each other. You can't get any power from eels, Marlon.
Oh, for God's sake, you take an anode and a cathode, you put it in the water, and
I don't think so, Marlon. I don't think you're going to light a hobbyist light bulb at a science fair with that. I don't think you're going to get a lot of current with a lot of electric eels in any size container.
Why is everything no with you?
Oh!
Why is it always no? Can't you say yes?
Because I would always, and that's, I suppose, why I kept being invited back. I wasn't one of the sycophants. Oh, Marlon, what a great idea. Oh, yes, we'll do it together. We'll do it. And I wouldn't. I just kind of, because deep down, I think he knew it couldn't work. So I said, here's the deal. You take care of your end of it. You get the wires coming out of the pool with some usable current.
Yeah.
You take care of that part.
Right.
And I'll have inverters and power, and I'll tie into your grid, your home power, and I'll handle it from there, from the side of the pool on out, from the coping of the pool out. I'll handle that part. You do the first part. And then he said, do you still have your wind turbine? He asked about my wind turbine. I said, yeah, I do.
How would you like to increase the capacity tenfold?
I said, how are you going to do that?
Give me a piece of paper.
And he drew on a napkin this, picture of my wind turbine that's, like an inch and a half big.
Right.
Then he had this giant cone that's like 5 inches big on this piece of paper that's like a big, like hearing horn or something. Hey, what's that, Sonny? Or a cornucopia with the end cut off. And that's in front in this drawing that he did.
Yeah.
This giant funnel is in front of my wind turbine. I said, Marlon, do you understand the scale of what you're talking about? My wind turbine, the blades are, 80 feet across or something. So that means that this big horn is going to be 300 500 feet across. You'll be sucking every bird in the Pacific Flyway. The Audubon's going to shut you down, the Audubon Society. It'll be like a Cuisinart, for birds. And do you have any idea how much manufacturing will be involved? And more importantly, you'll tear my wind turbine to splinters because it's not designed to go past 40 miles per hour. It shuts off at 40 miles an hour so it doesn't tear the tower down.
Yeah.
Why is everything no with you? It's always no.
But he was a great thinker, and he always had these ideas. And he and Dr. Craven, I can't remember Dr. Craven's first name, came up with this idea that they implemented. They're using at his resort in
Tahiti?
In Tahiti now. They've used in other tropical hotels. This guy, Dick, I'll think of his name in a minute, the guy from this hotel chain in the tropics, they use deep ocean water to cool, and it uses very little electricity to pull the water up from like 600 feet down and put it back in the ocean at 100 feet, 150 feet down. It doesn't harm any marine life either. And what it does is it cools the food, the guests, and the employees. Because in the tropics, 2/3 of your energy bill, your electric bill, is cooling, keeping your food cool, keeping your guests cool, and keeping your employees from dying in the heat too. And a kilowatt hour there in Tahiti costs you like 35 or 40 cents because everything's coming from diesel fuel, whatever way you're running your generators, all comes from far away. They don't have any oil wells there or anything. They got to ship it in from Australia or something to get fuel for their generators. So it's super expensive. So if you can cut your energy bills by 2/3 by using deep ocean water to cool, and that was his idea with this Dr. Craven, and they're using it to this day. It's a very efficient way to cool in the tropics.
So you met, to me, Marlon Brando I only met him one day. It was, I said, this man's a mystic. What was the biggest thing you learned from him that helped you in your acting, or was there something special about him as a human being?
Yeah, he began a process for me where I stopped trying to please everybody. I said, I'm so sorry I didn't get your message now. I was out of town and you left it on the home machine and I'm sorry. He said basically, that there's no room for sorry. I'm not sorry for anything I ever did. And, don't apologize for anything. I'm glad you called me back. And so I just, he was a guy that stopped caring what other people think a long, long time ago. And so that was helpful to me because I was a big people pleaser and I was running myself ragged trying to keep everybody happy. Answering emails from Fox News viewers, about why did you do this and such, and you're not a patriot, you're a traitor. What are you talking about? I'm a traitor because I want to use renewable energy instead of foreign oil? How does that make me a traitor? But I'd write them back and engage them and try to get them to see it my way. I don't waste my time anymore. If you got somebody watching Fox News, they're probably not going to buy anything that I have to sell them.
What was do you have a favorite Marlon Brando film? Just personally, for you?
My favorite, I just saw Streetcar Again. It's just so unbelievable what he does. The movie is so good, and he's so good in it. It's just unbelievable. The Fugitive Kind is great.
On the Waterfront, of course.
On the Waterfront, brilliant. What is the one with Anna Magnani? It's like Orpheus Descending.
I think that is isn't that The Fugitive Kind?
Maybe it is.
It is, but it's called Orpheus Descending.
Yeah.
Is the play.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think the movie version is Orpheus Descending.
He has a snakeskin jacket. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is that the same?
That's
movie?
The Fugitive Kind.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's right.
I even like Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, that's right. Fugitive. That's right. Guys and Dolls. He's great in that. There's nothing he's not great in. He's maybe. What is the movie that he did? That he, where he was in. It takes place in like in Africa or something, or some island. It's like a movie that was greatly reviled at the time.
The Island of Dr. Moreau.
not that one. That's a more recent one. This is years ago where he's kind of like this, oh God, I'll think of it. Maybe it's in Africa. There's like an uprising of Africans. And he's,
Yes.
what is the name of that movie?
I can't think of the name of it, but I sort of remember. Yeah, I can't think of. It's not.
Yeah. But
His
he's great in that. I
post-60s.
saw that. I'd never seen that because people said, you know, oh boy, that movie's terrible. This was the end of Marlon's career.
Right.
But it wasn't at all. He did, you know, The Godfather and did some incredible work after that, of course. But
I think there are certain people, and you know, I would say in my, you know, brief meeting with Peter Sellers. You never met? Did you ever meet? Peter
I
Sellers?
never met Peter
I mean, I was
Sellers.
a child when I met him very briefly. But again, there's certain people you meet in your life, and they're just on a different wavelength, and so I think that it messes them up somehow in terms of dealing with other people. You know, people just can't relate to them. They would say, "Oh, Peter Sellers, he's just a lunatic," and you know, I didn't see that. I didn't see him
No.
as being you know, crazy at all. But I miss Marlon Brando. Those kind of voices of cinema. You know, we don't, as they go, we don't have any. You know, we don't have anybody else to replace them. Were there other people along his lines that you met? I mean, I should say too, you're also in the Academy, and you must, you know, do you ever? I get starstruck when I'm in. I mean, just to be a member of the Academy, and my grandfather won 2 Academy Awards, and your dad won an Academy Award. Does it still feel like such an honor to be in the Academy?
Yes, it's a great honor. It's still to this day, it's a great honor. I was a governor for 15 years, and I loved that, and I'm glad to be a member, very honored to be a member, and you know, to work with the people I've worked with, to work with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep, and work with these incredible actors, and to, you know, have some of them. I had a nominees luncheon at my house a few years ago as a governor. I was asked to, excuse me, to entertain some of the nominees, the male nominees.
Wow.
And so I had Daniel Day-Lewis to my house,
Wow.
and Joaquin Phoenix and Alan Arkin, and you know, all the nominees from that year came to my house. Hugh Jackman. It was just this amazing thing. Tommy Lee Jones. And I cooked a meal at my house. I have a picture of them all
Wow.
sitting there. It's like, how did I fall into this? You know,
Right.
Where did I go right? I just don't understand how I got so lucky to live this life and know these people that I've known, to know Marlon. What an honor to know a person of that ilk, a man of that skill, and that, you know, a creative genius like that. I feel blessed. I used to go with my dad on the way whenever we'd drive up to San Francisco. He'd stop. We'd spend the night usually at the Miramar Hotel in Santa Barbara. And after we check into the hotel, we would go visit this old couple, and it was always so boring, and I didn't want to go there, but I would go there and kind of sit in a corner and read a book. I don't know what I did, but he would hang out with these people, Paul and Bella, and I had no idea who they were, but they just bored me to tears. It was Paul Muni, for God's sake.
Oh, God.
Paul Muni, and I had no idea
Wow.
I was in the presence of greatness. Then I started to watch, you know, Fugitive from a Chain Gang and these movies. Wait a minute, I know that guy.
Yeah.
You know, I should have just, you know, shut up and, you know, maybe asked him one question and sat at his knee and learned something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure just traveling, you know, around, that's amazing. I
Live
mean,
and learn.
well, again, just this trail, which is something that I talk about, just the fact that telling these stories keeps these people like Paul Muni alive, you know? A lot of, we don't remember the, you know, we don't remember them. So what's going on with you now currently? What are you working on these days?
A lot of work lately. I've been doing this
Television.
show, Maria Bamford's show. It's called Lady Dynamite. I play her dad on that. Then I'm on Blunt Talk with Patrick Stewart. I play Jackie Weaver's husband. She's so wonderful. Boy, do I love her. And then I did Better Call Saul. I did 5 episodes of that. And then I'm in the new Chris Guest movie, Mascots. That's coming out like tomorrow, I think. And so what else am I doing? I have a new series called Future Man, starring Josh Hutcherson. I play his dad. Glenn Headley plays his mom. It's a Seth Rogen directed, Evan Goldberg directed and produced TV show for Hulu, so that's going to be great. And that starts in January. So I've just been working like crazy.
You're constantly working.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have more than 300 credits on IMDb.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy. And, you know, of course, part of it is because you've had a long career, but you're just constantly working on all kinds of different things, right?
I'm very lucky to still be working, too. I'm 67, and to still be working at that age,
You're
love
never
it.
going to stop working. What do you think
No.
what do you think the quality is? I mean, I have my own feelings, but what do you think the quality is that you offer that is so kind of endearing to everybody? Like, oh, we got to get Ed for this.
I don't know. I have no idea. I just hope they never get on to me and realize I haven't the faintest idea what I'm doing.
I was in a screening, an early screening of the new Ghostbusters film,
Yes.
and literally,
Which Ed is in.
when Ed walked on screen, everybody started laughing. And to me, there's no greater compliment.
That's fantastic.
Because there's the promise. That's my theory. There is the promise when we see you on screen. Oh, he's going to do something funny. And
Bless your heart.
And that's what I think is unbeatable. It's that excitement of like, oh God, what's Ed going to do? You know, and
I'm very lucky.
it's just true, and of course he delivered. I think that was one of my favorite funny parts of the film. As soon as Ed walked in, I sat up. You know.
I love that movie. I love those ladies. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. What do you think of the? I mean, I suppose we should ask a
Yeah,
little
you
bit of
should.
the backlash
Yeah.
of the film. What was
I'm-
that about?
I'm mystified by it. As a man, I heard the news long before Paul Feig ever considered me for a part. I
Yeah.
heard the news that they're going to do it with the women. My instant reaction was, oh my God, that's so smart
Right.
and so great. I'm a guy.
Right.
I didn't feel threatened by the fact that, like, you know, because there's so many movies with women, there's no parts for men anymore.
Right.
You know, I mean, what are they, crazy?
Yeah.
These angry white guys in their bathrobes in their mother's basement. I can't believe that they're upset that women are playing these parts and go. I just don't understand it. It was very good. It didn't destroy the memory for me of the movie, which I loved.
Yeah.
I don't get the backlash at all.
I didn't understand it either. To me, movies are movies, and movies, again, traditionally have been remade, or they've been, Howard Hawks made the same movie 18 times, like they keep, or they did the female version of The Odd Couple.
Exactly.
You did the all African American version of Long Day's Journey into Night. Like I don't.
Sure.
I don't understand. I didn't understand what the big deal. That one, I agree with you. I was kind of
I was
mystified.
baffled. I just don't understand it. And it's not like they, had Ernie in the movie. They had Bill Murray in the movie.
Right.
They had,
Yeah.
it was a wonderful homage to a lot of the people. They had Annie Potts. It was great. It didn't.
Yeah.
It's not destroying the original movie in the least. Go see that again if you like it. I liked it. I'd like to see it again.
Well, there's so much of of a feeling these days of the audience, doesn't. I miss the kind of film criticism, if you want to know the truth, because I grew up reading, Pauline Kael and then later Roger Ebert, and even, I don't know if you remember Stanley Kaufman. He was one of my favorite things to read as a kid. He used to do movie reviews.
That name sounds familiar.
For the New Republic. But, I love to read film criticism and then based on their comments go to see the film. But now everybody seems to get, everybody's got an opinion about something. So I don't know if it's, we're looking at the same picture in the Museum of Modern Art and everybody's got an opinion about
Yeah.
it.
And I think they want to get traction, some of these people, by being, more negative than they need to be. I mean, give movies a break.
Yes.
You don't have to like every movie, that's for sure. You don't have to like stuff you don't like, but sometimes they're pulling stuff apart. It's like, what? That's what you're going to focus on?
Yes.
The movie was wonderful, and you're going to focus on that one scene that was maybe not perfect and tear
Yeah.
the whole movie apart because of that?
I know.
I don't get it.
I thought it was very strange. Now, aside from, because I know Easy to Assemble was probably playing the ghost. You played the ghost of S. Erlen Hoosen. I thought it was a sort of a metaphor. He was such a great inventor, but his inventions, bringing it back to Marlon, were so complicated that none of them were ever invented. That was the storyline in the show. And you played my ghost, and through through meeting Ed. He would give me personal advice on my real life, and it was really wonderful because I would want no one else to be my ghost. So if people want to go watch Easy to Assemble and me and Ed in that. But do you have like a favorite movie that you worked on, or an overlooked film? What's an overlooked film that we should look at?
Meet the Applegates is very interesting. It's
Okay.
a Michael Lehman film, and it's Stockard Channing and me. Dabney Coleman's in it. Glenn Shaddix is in it. Many wonderful people are in it. And it's a movie that didn't do a lot of box office, certainly when it came out in 1990.
Okay.
We did it in 1988. It came out in 1990. And it was a very odd movie where we're like these bugs that are able, like some bugs do, to adapt to their surroundings where they blend in, like with the foliage. That's the basic principle. But
Okay.
we blend in such a way we actually take on human form. But our goal is to cause a meltdown at this nuclear reactor, where I wound up getting a job as the father of the family, and we're going to destroy humanity because humanity is destroying the planet. That's the basic buy of the
Okay.
movie. But we get so involved in American consumerism and porn and all this different stuff. The kids are on drugs.
Wow.
Everything happens to our family. We
Yeah.
lose sight of our mission. And Dabney is like the queen bee kind of bug, and he comes to, get us back in shape. But we've just fallen apart. We've become, American disasters of our own doing. It's a very interesting, very funny, very well shot movie. Michael Lehman did it right after he did a movie called Heathers.
Yes, I remember
Which
Heathers.
was a very good movie done in the 80s by
Okay.
Michael Lehman. And so that's an overlooked movie.
I look forward to seeing that. Also, I recently saw Stay Hungry, another
Very interesting.
very kind of-
good Bob Rafelson movie. I just saw Bob. Wonderful. He did some wonderful movies, and that's one of them. That's
one of your early films.
Yeah, that was Arnold's first movie, really. Arnold Schwarzenegger's very first film, before Conan the Barbarian or any
Yeah.
of that stuff. He did Stay Hungry with Bob Rafelson, and Jeff Bridges is in it. Sally Field
Sally
is in
Field. Very kind of interesting movie. And I'm going to also recommend The Accidental Tourist.
it. Oh, that's a great. There's a
yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
Let me
Love that film.
give a different hierarchy here. A movie that was wonderful at the time, very well received, but not enough people have seen it. Accidental Tourist is a great movie. Larry Kasdan is a great writer,
Yeah.
a great director, and that movie needs to get some more love. It really, Gina Davis won an Academy Award for it, but Bill Hurd is great in it.
one of my-
Kathleen Turner is great in it. Bill Pullman.
Yeah. It's a wonderful film. Some of the dinner table scenes
Oh, yeah.
are fantastic, and you're fantastic in them. And so The Accidental Tourist, Stay Hungry, and Meet the Applegates.
Yeah, those are some movies that people need to see.
All right. Well, Ed, thanks so much for being here on my podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. The first time I've officially interviewed you, though.
I loved it. Anytime, Illeana. I love you a lot.
Oh, I love you too.
Ed's website is edbegley.com,
Yep.
and we're going to also put a bunch of things on our website, which will have some video clips and things like that. That's Illianaspodcast.com. Also, you can buy Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper, at bookstores and at Amazon.com.
And that's
It's
a great book. I read
It
that
is,
book,
isn't
by the
it?
way. You got to get that book, everybody. I read it. It's so good. Really,
Aw.
really good. Be proud of that.
Thank
That's
you.
a well-written book.
It
Thank you.
is. It's like you. It's funny and entertaining and endearing, and I've loved it. So.
And it's got heart.
Yeah,
A
it
lot of
does.
heart.
Some heart.
It does. Ed, thank you so
Awesome.
much for
Thanks,
being
Ed.
with us. We
Thank
want you to come
Tamara.
back again.
Thank you, Illeana. We'll
Love
do it
you.
again.
I'll make more pate. You can come.
Yes.
Oh, my God. The food was so good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You're so much fun, Ed. Of course, you
You
make it
too.
so easy. And I know we went over, but
That's fine.
we had some technical difficulties.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.